Hey friends, and welcome back to another Kitchen Table Talk. My name is Wendy with Inspire Ministries. I'm so glad that you have hopped on to this video today. It's going to be short, it's going to be sweet, and you're getting this today. No makeup, glasses on. I've got my shorts on. I would call these pulling weeds shorts because that's what I've been doing today. But I wanted to bring you a message today of hope and encouragement. I know a lot of people who could use some hope and encouragement right now, including myself. We all need hope and encouragement, and that's what I want to give you today. I was looking back over some of the writings that I did last year during the pandemic, and one of the areas of scripture that I kept going back over and over again last year during the pandemic, 2020, was in Isaiah. Now, most of the scriptures that I found myself in for many months during the pandemic were found in the book of Isaiah. This one in particular was in Isaiah 21, verses 11 and 12. And I want to read to you out of the New Living Translation today and tell you what it says. It says this message came to me concerning Edom. Someone from Edom keeps calling to me, Watchman, how much longer until morning? When will the night be over? The watchman replies, morning is coming, but night will soon return. If you wish to ask again, then come back and ask. Watchmen, how much longer until morning? And I remember when I wrote something about this last year concerning this, when will the night be over? When will morning come? And I know there are many of us, many people right now who are in this waiting pattern. They find themselves in this season of unrest. They don't know what's coming. They don't know what's going to happen next. They are kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop. There's a situation going on in their life that is bringing them all kinds of pain. They're in a trial. Just looking out at what's happening in our world today is enough to make us anxious and filled with grief and doubt and stress and all of those things. And many people right now currently are in a situation where they would be asking, Watchman, when is the morning coming? I was reading in a commentary concerning this last year. I ran across the commentary again today on Charles Spurgeon's commentary concerning this. Charles Spurgeon says, let us observe the signs of the times and prepare for conflict. I was watching a television show with my husband this weekend, and I can't even remember what the show was on or what it was about even, but there was a little snippet that I remember being so profound when I heard it that I actually took my phone out and I started to take notes on what was said because I didn't want to forget it. The gentleman that was talking was being interviewed, and he was asking about, I think he was a boater. I think he drove a big boat, and they were talking about inclement weather, like when they run into inclement weather. I'm not really even sure if I'm getting all of that part of the story correct or not. But somebody was interviewing him, and they asked him about that. They asked him about what happens when you endure, when you look ahead and you see that there's bad weather coming. Does it scare you? Does it frighten you? Are you afraid? And the gentleman responded, and he said, are we afraid? No, we're prepared for it. And when I read that commentary by Charles Spurgeon this morning again, and he said, prepare for conflict, it made me think about that quote from the gentleman from this weekend's that I saw on TV. And so I think that there's a difference between being filled with anxiety for things that we don't know that are coming, being so worried and so bogged down with grief and concern and anxiety and stress and all of these things. We just prepare for conflict. And by preparing for conflict, I think we do a lot of things. I think we get in our Bible. I think we get on our knees. I think we search for Jesus. I think we search out truth. I think we get in partnership with people who think like us. I think we share the gospel. I think these are the ways that we prepare, and not just these end times, not just in these end days, but in these end hours. In these end hours. I heard a prophet say this, a female prophetess who said this recently. She said, we're not just in our last days, you realize, we're actually in our last hours. And she actually made reference to the watchman, as we've talked about here in Isaiah 21, and how she believes that we are in end hours. And so how will we prepare ourselves for things that are coming, instead of adding to the already conflict, the swirl of conflict and unrest that's already going on within us? But Charles Spurgeon goes on. He says this. He says, "Watchmen, what of the night? What stars are visible? What precious promises suit our present ease?" And he continues on. He says, "Watchmen, when comes the morning? Are there no signs of his coming forth as the Son of Righteousness? Has not the morning star arisen as the pledge of the day?" I love this so much because Charles Spurgeon was just one of those brilliant minds that we lost way too soon in the 1800s. He is one of those brilliant minds that we need to go back on and glean from, because he was so filled with wisdom. He was so in tune with the Holy Spirit. And he says this one line that I absolutely love. Let's go back to it. He says, "Watchmen, what of the night? What stars are visible?" What stars are visible? And so I asked myself that question. What stars are visible? In other words, what can I see out in my world today that is worth taking note of positively? What can I look at today that is going to give me hope? What am I going to choose to look at today that is going to bring me peace and joy and contentment, and most of all, hope? Hope in the fact that Jesus is coming back and that we are in end times. Now, for the unbeliever, knowing that we are in end times is going to bring a little bit of grief, is going to bring a little bit of unrest. But for the believer, listen, we have hope that Jesus is coming back. We have hope in that, and we have hope of an eternal home with him. I know most of us right now are in some way, shape, or form in a season of waiting. And I know for many of us, we are looking for this question to be answered, like we read in Isaiah. How much longer do we have to endure this? How much longer until morning? We're wondering, how much longer will we have to endure the night? And to that, I return the words to you, my friend. What stars are visible? What kinds of things can you begin seeing in your world today that's worth clinging on to for hope? Today I was at a store and I was checking out, and the cashier looked so unhappy. And it would have been normally within my tendency to get frustrated at somebody that wasn't treating me well at the cash register, or who was just had poor customer service. But listen, in these end hours, it's very important that we be the hope bearers, that we be the ones that step into any environment that we enter and bring hope and bring a divine solution to every situation that we enter, because people are hurting. They're hurting, genuine pain, genuine situations that they're going through. Not just that they've had a bad day, that they're literally going through a season of unrest and crisis and hardship and turmoil. And so we need to be those hope dealers, right? We need to come into the situations that we enter into with great amount of hope. And so I just was as kind as I possibly could be to her, because I kept telling myself, I can't even imagine what she endures every single day, what she faces dealing with the public every single day. And so I just offered grace. I just offered love. I just offered a smile and kindness. I didn't come in anticipating to be treated a certain way. Listen, she doesn't owe me anything. I don't deserve to be treated well. She doesn't owe me anything. I though owe her what I have as hope within my own life. I owe that to her. I owe the world this gift of Jesus Christ. And that is a part of how I prepare for the hardship, prepare for the conflict. So I want to ask you today, what stars are visible in your life? What do you see? Looking out in your world today, what can you see in the midst of darkness? What beauty can you still witness in the blackest, darkest, coldest night? God has given us promise after promise after promise in his word. He has been so faithful to provide for us rest in the chaos, joy in the midst of pain, laughter through tears. And he still has the whole world in the palm of his hands. And he whispers, what can you find today in your world? What stars are visible? What stars are visible in your world that you need to pay close attention to? That is what you need to have for your hope today. So I just encourage you today, friends. I encourage you with Isaiah 21. And in fact, I would ask you to read as much of Isaiah as you can right now, believers, because there's so much goodness and so much hope in the pages of his word, in the current climate that we are dealing with as a nation, as individual people. I mean, this is serious stuff. And you and I, as believers, we need to be preparing for the conflict, not to be afraid of what's coming, not to be filled with fear and anxiety and dread, but to say, you know what? I am preparing, even if it's in the soil of my soul, I'm preparing for the conflict. And I am doing so by keeping an eye on the stars that are visible. What stars are visible in the dead of night, in your dead of night? I ask you to go and find those stars. And then once you find those nuggets of joy, that you would hand out hope to every person that you see. All right, friends, it has been longer than I had anticipated, but I am so glad that you stayed with me to the end. I look forward to my next video with you, and I hope that you're having an awesome day with Jesus. Bye, friends.